Welcome back to the Soul and Success Academy on the Spiritual UPlevel Podcast, where we share tools and information on how to be successful as well as in alignment with your soul. I'm your host, Jeri Cristine, and today we are going to talk about the value of mindset. So, how you talk to yourself, the thoughts that you think, the things that you believe in, and how you can affect them in 3 simple ways. So, mindset. To think is to create. Mindset is probably the single most important thing that we have within our reality to affect our reality. Scientists have done numerous studies, and they believe that we in our unconscious mind, our peripheral vision, all of our 5 or 6 senses, depending on if you believe in women's intuition as a 6th sense. The information that we gather from all those different areas is at least 2 million bits of information per second. That might seem fanciful, but think about it. In any given second, you could be seeing every mark of paint on the wall, every bit of texture of paint on the wall, every bit of texture in this wall behind me, every leaf on the plant, every sound going on around you. If you're driving, every license plate, every color of car, the clouds in the sky, all of that is information that is coming at us every single second. But our conscious mind only has the ability to focus on 126 bits of information per second. So it takes all of that information that's available to it and it whittles it down to just 126 bits. So how do you think the conscious mind chooses what 126 to focus on? Well, first of all, and most importantly, is the things that it needs to keep you safe and alive. So if you're driving, your unconscious mind sees brake lights and sends it to your conscious mind to focus on, you need to brake. Things like that. And then it also narrows it down. Our conscious mind narrows down what the unconscious sees based on patterns that it recognizes. So things that are similar. So yes, I have seen paint before. It's not going to hurt me in any way. So I don't need to focus on every single little detail in the paint on the wall and so forth. However, if you think about the fact that we have all of these options of what we're going to focus on, and yet we have to narrow it down, or we do narrow it down to such a little small number that we're actually going to be conscious of. That tells us that we also are somewhat selective in the things that we focus on. Some of it, like I said, is natural, has to happen, keeps you safe. But the parts that we focus on that don't have to happen, that aren't vital for keeping us safe and alive, are things that we choose. I almost said consciously, but consciously maybe isn't the correct word there. We choose them based on biases. We choose them based on experience, based on our history. How have these things affected us or impacted us in the past, and are they important or not? If, you have a boyfriend and he says something to you, has someone in the past said something like that to you or the exact same thing, and it impacted you in a certain way because they meant it in a mean way. And so you naturally jump to conclusions and assume that current boyfriend means it in the same way. We narrow things down and group them together to make it easier to determine what to focus on. And all of that impacts the way that we see the world. If you don't like what you see in front of you, change it. Choose another 126. Sounds simple. It is way more difficult than that because of the habits and patterns that our unconscious mind has created in order to keep us safe and alive. And so those things naturally come through. Our mind then forms synapses in our brain. So one brain cell or one neuron communicates with another brain cell slash neuron, and they form a connection, a physical connection between the two of them called a synapsis. Once a synapsis is formed, so a belief is formed in your brain, it is easier for the electricity, the electrical currents in our brain to keep using that same pattern. The more use that it gets, it starts to create an actual ridge or valley in your brain, making it even more easy for that connection to be made and that pathway to be used. That also makes it more difficult for us to think something different. In order to think something different, we have to consciously recognize, oh, here's a pattern. Here's something that I think, a belief that I have that may or may not be true. Do I want to continue with the same thought, or do I want to consciously choose a different thought to think about? There's many different ways to go about interrupting that thought pattern or that natural bit of 126 that your mind wants to focus on because of habits and patterns that it's created. We're not going to get into all of those today. We will at some point, but those things include therapy, NLP, hypnosis, different pattern interrupt methods that people use, meditation, prayer, different things like that, where you quiet your mind and you become aware of those patterns and then you can break them. We'll go through those later. But today I want to talk about 3 distinct areas that impact what you think. They impact the options that your unconscious mind gives you to think about. And those 3 areas are what you allow into your space, meaning media, influence, what you read, hear, what you watch, the people that you surround yourself with, so your tribe, and then finally, the space that you hold yourself, that you hold for yourself, the space that you hold for yourself. And yes, we all hold space for ourselves, whether you want to believe it or not. We do. So let's get into it. If you want to influence the 2 million bits of information that you have access to choose which 126 you're going to focus on, wouldn't it make sense that what you surround yourself with greatly impacts your choice? In fact, it may be the entire thing that creates the choices. For example, what kind of music do you listen to? The popular music these days, top 40 music, is typically not very good. Like, the music might be fun, it might be fun to dance to, but if you listen to the words, is it healthy for you? Is it good for your brain? Is it good for your soul? Would you say those words to your children? And if not, why do we listen to it? Why do we allow our children to listen to it? That stuff is just implanting information into your brain, into your unconscious every day, constantly. And if you think that you can consciously choose how that information affects you, I'm sad to say that you're wrong, because again, 2 million bits of information coming in, we only focus on 126. And I guarantee you're not focused on the words to the song that you're allowing into your brain at any given minute. The same thing is with television, what you watch on social media, the movies that you watch, all of that is information that is going into your brain and somewhere unconsciously planting itself there. I know so many women, especially, who listen to true crime shows, whether they watch them or listen to them on podcasting. And I'll give it to you, they are fascinating. It's really interesting to get into the mind of somebody that did something bad. But it also takes up space in there and creates its home within your unconscious mind, giving you things like nightmares later on, giving you things like anxiety when you stay home alone, even though nothing's wrong, nothing bad is happening, but you feel a level of anxiety. Where do you think it's coming from? Your mind has all of those thoughts stored inside of it, and it's bringing them up for you without you even being fully aware that it's happening. Even social media, what does your social media feed look like? Is it not so great? Would you want your friends and family to know what you're looking at on social media? Would you want your partner to know what you were looking at on social media? Your kids? If not, why are you watching it? Become conscious of what you're allowing in. So this is our senses. This is our hearing and our seeing, but it translates into emotions. It translates into feeling. When you're watching a true crime show, most people, if you stop and think about it for a minute, you will realize that your body is tense. Your breathing is shallow. You have a little bit of underlying anxiety because what's going to happen? That creates dopamine in our bodies, which creates an addiction to it, a habit, a pattern. It's in there physically, physiologically. It gets into your cells. Our cells have memory, and that is all in there, ready to be brought up at any given moment, whether it's appropriate timing or inappropriate for those kind of emotions and thoughts. So pay attention to it. Reading books, magazines, blogs. Again, it's the same as your social media feed. What are you reading? What are you allowing into your mind? Are you reading, smutty romance novels, or are you reading something that feeds your brain, that allows you to grow and develop as a conscious human being? For all the same reasons, you have to be conscious of that. And we talked about music. It's the same with podcasts. Just becoming aware of what information you're allowing into your unconscious mind at any given moment. Secondly, the value of your tribe, who you surround yourself with. There is a saying that if you hang out with 4 fools, eventually there will be 5 fools because you'll become one too. We are the average of the 5 people that we surround ourselves with most. Because again, they're influencing us more than anybody else. So who are the 5 people in your life? Take stock of it. Are they people you want to be like? Are they people that you actually like and enjoy being around and again, want to be like? Or are there people that you tolerate and you don't really want to be around them? Maybe you don't have that many people in your life. And maybe the people who most influence you are the person you listen to on podcasts. I imagine if you're listening to this podcast and you've gotten this far, you're pretty conscious about what you put into your mind. So are they people you want to be like? Are they people that you can look up to? Take stock in that. I am blessed to just have come off of 2 incredible women's retreats in the past 2.5 weeks. And I am shocked and saddened by the number of women that tell me that they don't have other supportive, growing, conscious women in their lives. They don't have women that they feel like they can trust or that they can be real with or that they can find healing with. And that's so sad to me because we're out here and we want to be friends with other women. It's so important. I just really encourage you to find those people, find your tribe, Be conscious about it. Make sure that they're the people that you actually want to be most influenced by. Because again, you become the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with in your life. And thirdly, holding space for yourself. We all do this. You have to. You can't get away from yourself. You are the only person that you will be with from the moment you're born and even before to the moment you die and even after. You are not your mind, you're not your emotions, you're not your body. You are the consciousness that animates all of it. You will always be that. You have always been that. Wouldn't it be nice to have a best friend in that person? Wouldn't it be nice to have a cheerleader, a coach, someone who's inspiring, someone who keeps you moving forward? However, for most of us, ourself is not that nice of a person. In fact, would you want to stay married to someone who speaks to you the way that you speak to yourself? Would you stay friends with somebody who speaks to you the way that you speak to yourself? Would you allow someone to speak to your children the way that you speak to yourself? And if the answer is no, you need to change that. You have to change that. Life becomes way better, way more magical, way more enjoyable when you are best friends with yourself. And it is possible. It's very possible. Do you spend time in prayer and meditation? Prayer and meditation are the times where you connect with something higher than yourself, something greater than yourself. It's the time when you can take a deep breath, become centered within yourself, and realize that a lot of the things that you have anxiety or frustration or fear about in your day really, in the long run, don't matter. It's the time where over time, with practice and consistency, you can begin to recognize the thoughts that come into your mind and let them go with no attachment and no judgment. This is where you will begin to find inner peace. If you're not sure how to meditate, don't make it harder than it is. Our minds in Western society, I don't care what anyone teaches, our minds are not trained and designed to slow down, to have no thoughts. Sure, maybe after 20 years of consistently meditating, you will be able to do that. But when you're just getting started, don't worry about quieting your minds. I have meditations recorded on my website. There's infinite number of meditations, guided meditations recorded on YouTube. Use those. Sit silently and listen to music, positive, good music for your soul. Notice thoughts as they arise and simply let them go. And meditation can be 5-10 minutes. You may find that you come out of the meditation and it's been 30 or 40 minutes. But even if it's only 5 or 10, commit to yourself to do a practice like that consistently every day. And eventually, over time, your relationship with yourself will change and your life will improve. 100% of the time, that will be the result of a consistent meditation or prayer practice. Another way that we hold space for ourselves is through conscious movement. Our physical bodies are designed to move energy through them. And if you're not doing that, it's getting stuck in there and it can feel tight and constricting and uncomfortable. And this is where we get fidgety, and this is where we get restless leg syndrome. And this is why we can't sleep at night, because we have all of this energy built up inside of us and it just wants to come bubbling out. So find a conscious movement practice, whether that's yoga, Zumba, dancing, walking. There's a simple practice that I have learned to love, which is literally just shaking from your toes to the top of your head. Just consciously shake it all out. If you can imagine an image we've all seen this image of a gazelle being chased by a lion in the jungle. The lion's going for its meal, the gazelle is running for its life. As soon as the lion gives up because the gazelle is too fast, lion gives up and decides to try something easier. As soon as that happens, the gazelle stops running. It looks around for about 2 seconds, and then it shakes its whole entire body. And it's literally just shaking the adrenaline, the dopamine out of its nervous system. And then it instantly goes back to eating like nothing ever happened. You can do that through this method. I do it at night. If I can't sleep, I'll get up, go in my bathroom, and just shake all of the energy out. And guess what? I can sleep every time afterwards. So movement, get that body moving, that energy flowing through so that you can create clearer channels for energy to move through your body. And then lastly, grace. One of the biggest components of mindset is grace. Having grace for others starts with having grace for ourselves. So if your mindset isn't great, if you react to other people, have grace for yourself. It's totally normal. Everybody does that. Have grace for yourself. Give yourself grace. When you're able to give yourself grace, you will be able to then forgive yourself. And then you'll in turn be able to have grace for others and patience for them and compassion and love. But each of those things starts inside. Our outer world, the 126 bits of information that we choose to focus on, are a reflection of our inner world. And if we have grace, compassion, love for ourselves, we will have those same things for other people. It's not something that happens overnight. Many people could say that I'm a hypocrite for talking about this because I used to have the least amount of grace, compassion, and patience for anyone else because I had none for myself. And it came spilling out all over everyone, my family, at work, in front of my employees, sometimes to my employees. I'm not proud of it. And that was a reflection of how I felt about myself. And once I learned to become conscious about all of these other things I've talked to you about today, I was able to begin to have patience, grace, forgiveness, understanding, peace, joy for myself. And then it spilled out onto everyone else. I promise if you are listening to this, I need you to hear this. It doesn't matter where you are today or where you were yesterday. It doesn't matter how you reacted to your children or the road rage that you got on the way to work this morning. You can change it. Forgive yourself for that and move on. Focus on these other areas. When you begin to take out things that are not valuable to you, that are not serving your highest and best purpose, that are not serving your spiritual upleveling, your spiritual evolution, when you take those things out and you are conscious about what you allow in, your life will change. It may not change tomorrow, next week, next month. It may not even be where you want it in an entire year, but in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from today, you will not even recognize the person that you are today because you will have changed and evolved and grown so much in love for yourself and love for others. And this is the foundation of all success. Thank you for listening today. If you liked this information, please like and follow. Visit my website for more information, and I look forward to seeing you next week.